Chapter 20. The dead patient lay on a stainless steel table, folded surgical blankets piled near its feet. A number of sheets covered the corpse, creating a somewhat unsettling outline, spots of red staining the white cloth near the torso area. Sarah tried not to think of the dead man in the room, but her eyes kept flicking back to the table. "Stop it," she told herself, "before you start thinking and moved." "Over here," Dr. Sharma said. Sarah followed him to the wall near the sink. Sure enough, there was a plastic rectangle on the wall with several buttons and a handset atop it. "Can I call security from here?" "I think so," Sharma said. "If nothing else, you can get the hospital operator." "Yeah," Sarah said. "Operator, can you please connect me with the Monster Squad?" She did her best to keep a straight face, but a smirk slipped through. She picked up the handset and listened for a dial tone. There wasn't one. She rolled her eyes and then stabbed one of the buttons on the phone. A 1 lit up, and the receiver clicked into a steady tone. She loosed a breathy sigh and then hit 0 on the handset. After a short pause, the receiver droned in 2 short tones. The line clicked. "I don't have any information," the woman on the other end of the line snapped in a nearly hysterical voice. "We will make an announcement over the PA as soon as we know something." Sarah cleared her throat. "This is HPD SWAT Commander Lieutenant Sarah Celian." Pause. "Oh, thank God. Can you connect me with, what the hell is going on?" The shrill voice hammered through the receiver. Sarah held the phone a few inches away from her ear while a torrent of questions flowed through the line. "Ma'am? Ma'am!" The voice ignored her. Sarah narrowed her eyes and then held down the 1 key on the handset. A steady tone roared against the woman's constant prattle. Finally, the voice shut up. Sarah took a deep breath. "Ma'am, I will update you momentarily, but right now I need to speak with security." Pause. "You can't," the woman said. Sarah frowned. The woman was sobbing. "Ma'am, what's your name?" Allison Burry." The operator's voice jittered with stress. "You can call me Sarah. I want you to remain calm, okay?" Allison took a deep, shuddering breath and then exhaled. "Better?" "Better." "Good. Now," Sarah said, "what do you mean I can't talk to security?" "I've tried to call them several times. There was no answer, and now I just get a busy signal." "Busy signal? Okay. That's okay. Where are you located?" "In the hospital." Sarah rolled her eyes. "Are you on the first floor?" "Oh," Sarah could hear the woman's blush in her voice. "Yes, in the main hall." "Is there anyone there with you?" The woman took a deep breath. "Several of the staff have come down to leave. They're trapped here with me." Sarah's eyes dropped to the floor. If the thing was in the basement and it could get to the main building, it would have to come back up to the first floor. "Okay, here's what I want you to do. Tell them to get back upstairs. I assume you have break rooms on each floor?" "Several," the woman replied. "But if they're upstairs, they can't get out." "That's the idea," Sarah thought. "We need them to stay on the upper floors for now. Do you understand?" The woman sniffled. "Yes, but I don't—" "Please, Allison." Sarah's voice dripped with saccharine sweetness. "Do it for me?" "Okay." Allison took another deep breath. "Do you want me up there too?" This was the part of the job she always hated. Her next words could doom Allison, but she didn't have a choice. "I need you to stay where you are. My team is doing its best to rectify the situation, but we need you there. You're the only one we have communications with right now. There are soldiers right outside those main entry doors. You're as safe as you can be, okay?" "Are you sure?" "I'm sure," Sarah lied. "Now I need you to do me one more favor. This should be fun." "Fun?" Allison asked, a note of incredulity in her panicked voice. "I want you to play a game of telephone tag. I want you to call every nurse's station in the hospital. They are ordered to keep all staff from leaving their current floor. They need to huddle in the break rooms if they're not working or on their rounds. It's just a precaution. If there are any security personnel on those floors, I need them to meet at your desk, okay?" "At my desk?" Allison asked. Yes. That way you'll be safe and they can help me if I need them, okay? There was a pause. Sarah closed her eyes, half expecting the woman to freak out or throw a tantrum. Instead, she could hear the smile in Allison's voice. Yes, Sarah, I can do that. Will keep me busy. Yes, it will. Now I have to go take care of some business, but I'll have one of my team stand by this phone. If something happens in that hallway, you call me, okay? Okay, Allison said. This job isn't worth 12 lousy bucks an hour. Sarah laughed. No, it's not. I'll talk to you soon. She hung up the phone. Is she going to be safe? Sharma asked. Sarah turned to him. The slightly built Indian physician's color seemed back to normal, but he still looked like the wall was holding him up. She'll be safe, Sarah said. The truth was she didn't know. She looked down the hall at the two CDC personnel. Dr. Harrell? Mathis? Mathis was still standing at the glass wall separating him from the hallway. He flinched and turned to her, a sheepish smile on his face. Yes, ma'am? That made Sarah smile. I want you two and Dr. Sharma here to remain in one of the operating rooms. I need to meet with my team for a few minutes, and I don't want any possible accidents to occur. Accidents? Mathis asked. What kind of accidents? Her gentle smile turned into a thin line. The kind where you get shot. The man met his colleague's eyes, and then the two of them walked away from the glass partition. Dr. Sharma in tow, they went into the emptier of the two suites. Satisfied the civilians were nice and safe, she walked out into the main hallway and closed the door behind her. Givens, standing just off to the side, didn't turn his head to her. The man was still as a statue, his knees slightly bent. Sarah clicked her mic. I want all team members to join up near the ER station. A flood of acknowledgments filled her headset. She tapped Givens on the shoulder. Let's go. She walked through the hallway, following the gentle curve toward the main area. Although she felt his presence behind her, Givens made no sound. Both he and Perkins seemed incapable of making noise unless they were firing their weapons. It was a good thing. When they reached the foyer, her team was already gathered in a small semicircle. She stood on one side, making sure the circle could see past her and the direction they faced in case an enemy appeared. For some of the men, this was, again, very rote. For O'Malley, this was still something he was getting used to. She hated that the rookie had been on the on-call list for the night. She'd have to keep him close no matter what happened. Okay, team, listen up. We're in complete lockdown. We're cut off from the main area of the hospital, and we need to protect the civilians we have. Also, our, combatant seems to be in the basement or sub-basement areas. I've been unable to communicate with the security office in the basement. If I'm right, that's where we should at least be able to get video feeds of the area and find this thing. She locked eyes with each of the men in turn. And kill it. Boss, Perkins said, do we know anything more about it? She shook her head. Eats anything that's not metal or glass, that's all. Perkins' expression didn't change in the least. At the same time, though, his eyes hardened. She'd seen that look before. She didn't even need to look at Givens to know he was doing the same. Here's what I want to do. I want Givens and Perkins to recon the basement and hook up with the security team. If they're still alive, that is. Perkins and Givens nodded. The rest of us will stay here and protect the civilians. We can't afford any more casualties. Understood? Boss, the men responded. Sarah smiled. Then let's get to it. Beta, cover the entrance to the hallway. Charlie, I want you guys covering the room where that thing went down into the basement. She looked at O'Malley. Delta is going to stay with the civvies for now. Go. Alpha, stay a minute. The men paired up into their teams and moved to their assignments except for Perkins and Givens. The two men regarded her with hard eyes. I know you already understand what's at stake and what's probably down there. But here's the thing. There may be more civilians down there besides the security team. If so, your primary mission is to get them to a safe place. The security team, if they're still alive, may have some ideas about that. She pointed to a fire door. O'Malley, check the door. He moved with fluid grace. But when compared to the rest of the team, he might as well have been a lanky, awkward teenager. O'Malley reached the door and tried the knob. It didn't budge. "Lock, boss." "Big surprise," she said. She flicked her eyes back to Givens and Perkins. "We've got two choices. We either spend the time to smash the door down, or you two go rappelling. My preference is for the second option. Thoughts?" The two men exchanged a glance. Givens' lips twitched upward in an amused smile, but then it was gone, as if it had never been there. "We're fine with that, boss." "Good," Sarah said with a grim smile. "Get to it. Move your asses." Chapter 21. The hole was wide, but ragged. They didn't have access to the SWAT van outside where the real gear was, but they always carried at least one rope bag for situations like this. Bradfish linked up the ropes while Alpha prepared. Givens checked his sidearm to ensure it was ready, did the same with the rifle, and even the tanto in his belt. This wasn't anything special, of course. Checking his gear before entering unknown territory was automatic. He didn't have to look up to know that his partner was doing the same. The two Rangers, just like their boss, had spent 3 tours in the sandbox. 3 tours of prowling through bombed-out cities, kicking in doors and flushing out caves, and 3 tours of getting shot at and watching team members die. Givens owed his life to Sarah Celian. So did Perkins. She was a newly minted sergeant on their first tour. By the time they came back for their first leave, she was in command of the unit. When their first lieutenant was shot and killed outside of a no-name village on the Iranian-Iraq border, she had kept the entire team alive. She took 2 bullets for her trouble, but never lost control, and every decision she made was the right one. Givens and Perkins threatened to muster out at the end of their tours if they weren't put back on Celian's fire team. The Rangers had no quibble with putting a good squad back together again. And so it went, until the 3rd tour. 6 months in, a new commander visited the area. The last thing that son of a bitch wanted was a black woman in charge of a Ranger team. A few weeks later, when they returned back to base, Celian was given a desk job. Her team split up, and that was the end of her combat tour. She retired soon after. Givens and Perkins, blood brothers since they had arrived in the Middle East, mustered out and followed Celian to her hometown of Houston. When she entered the police force, so did they. In no time at all, the 3 of them were in SWAT, and Celian was the first female commander in Houston history. Neither Givens nor his friend had any interest in rising through the ranks. They lived for the job, and that was all. SWAT in Houston wasn't exactly active on a daily or even weekly basis. When they weren't in the field, they were regular officers, although usually put into the worst areas. It was a nice break from getting shot at, dealing with hostage situations, or covering for a bomb squad, but it didn't hold the same adrenaline rush as jumping into the unknown. Givens looked forward to hearing his phone roaring Flight of the Valkyrie at top volume. It meant it was time to get on the stick, put on the SWAT gear, and head into a situation that could get him killed, just the way he liked it. He clipped the rope onto his carabiner and glanced over at Perkins. The taller man was already clipped in and rechecking his gear. Givens paused. When Perkins was through, he looked up at his partner with slightly raised eyebrows. Givens nodded to him. "Ready," Perkins said. Bradfish took a few steps back and put his back against the wall. "On belay." "Belay on," Perkins said, and dropped into the void. His left arm caught the edge of the burned and melted hole, but he slipped through the rest of the way. Givens' heartbeat picked up. This was dangerous time. Perkins was 10 meters below them and alone. If something happened down there, Givens would have to move and move fast, and that wasn't at all safe. The only requirement of their friendship was they both come back from a mission in as few pieces as possible. That meant covering each other's asses, and when one of them went down without the other, that was a tall order. Givens waited impassively for the all-clear. He'd never show it, but he was actually afraid for his friend. All he could do now was wait. The lights from above cast a dim glow as Perkins slowly lowered himself into the abyss. The bright LED light clipped to his helmet stabbed through the darkness, but the beam wasn't wide enough to illuminate much of the room. Shit, for all he knew, the goddamned blob was waiting down there to eat him. And if it was, there wasn't much he could do about it. It was a long minute. He could have rappelled down faster, but he wanted to make sure he knew where he was and how the room was laid out before he hit the concrete below. Clearing the area before Givens dropped down was his priority, and that meant checking ingress and egress points and looking for hostiles. But hostile what? Boss seemed to buy the story of some creature, and considering the hole in the walls, the one in the floor, and the remarkably clean tile, he was willing to consider it too. If the boss believed it, however, it was fucking gospel, and he'd treat it as such until she was proven wrong. The hole led him into a large open space. Perkins wasn't sure where the hell he was in the building, but there looked to be machinery below him. Or maybe equipment, he wasn't sure which. The room was deathly quiet, and every slip of the rope through the carabiner was too loud. Just loud. Holding onto the rope with one hand, he unclipped the more powerful flashlight from his belt. His finger found the button instantly and pressed down, the flashlight blazing to life. Next to this, the light on his helmet was a match. The wider cone of white light stabbed through the darkness, revealing gleaming metal. Several large generators, tools, and various portable devices filled the room. He moved the light to shine directly beneath him. A rectangular block of metal stared back at him. Several control points and gauges rose from the top like chimneys. Perkins sighed. If he had come down as fast as he wanted, he probably would have broken a leg, arm, or worse. "Status, over," Givens' voice said in his headset. Perkins licked his lips. "Clear. No combatants. Over." Celian's voice piped up. "Any signs of destruction? Over." "Well, I don't see any rust in the room. It's pretty dark, boss. Hard to tell what happened in here. I'm going to hit the floor and take a look around. Givens, come down slow. The landing is a bit cluttered. Over." "Copy," Givens said. "Watch your ass, Perkins," Celian said. He grinned. "Yes, boss. Over and out."